Have you ever met someone and felt like you've known them forever? Like your soul recognized them before your mind even understood what was happening? It sits, not a coincidence. It sits, not luck. Some connections are written before time itself, written by the one who knew your heart long before it ever beat. Ibn Arabi once said, "The hearts of lovers were united before they came into this world." So when you meet someone who changes your life in ways you can't explain, stop doubting, stop overthinking. This isn't set random. It's steps a sign, a reminder that destiny isn't something that happens to you. It's something Allah is unfolding through you. And every soul you meet is part of that sacred design. There are moments in life when someone appears and everything within you shifts. You feel a strange pull, as if your soul recognizes them even before your mind has time to understand. It's not attraction, it's remembrance. Ibn Arabi said, "Souls knew each other before they took on bodies." This meeting was not by chance. It was written before time itself. Somewhere in the unseen realm, your soul agreed to cross paths with theirs. That feeling of peace or restlessness, that spark that won't fade, it's destiny unfolding exactly as it was meant to. You weren't just walking through life and bumped into them. You were being led, step by step, by the one who writes all stories, including this one. You may believe that people come and go without reason, but in Sufi understanding, every encounter is deliberate, crafted by divine intelligence. Some people enter to awaken something sleeping within you. They speak a word, show kindness, or simply exist, and something inside your heart begins to change. Others come to challenge you, to shake your ego, to teach patience or surrender. The easy connections give you comfort. The difficult ones purify you. Each soul is a messenger, carrying lessons that cannot be learned alone. Even the ones who hurt you are teachers in disguise. There is wisdom in every meeting, and mercy in every separation. Nothing happens without meaning when Allah is the one writing the script of your life. Ibn Arabi taught that everyone you meet reflects a part of yourself. What you admire in others mirrors the beauty Allah placed within you. What you dislike or resist often reveals your own hidden wounds. Every soul is a mirror, showing you where your heart stands. When someone's presence stirs deep emotion, it is your soul recognizing itself in another. Love, jealousy, fear, admiration. These are not accidents, they are revelations. The Sufi path teaches that seeing others clearly begins with seeing yourself honestly. Through every encounter, Allah allows you to witness both your light and your shadow. The more you learn from these mirrors, the closer you move towards self-awareness and toward Him. Some connections feel too intense to be ordinary. They burn with a strange mixture of longing and fear, joy and sorrow. They remind you of something eternal, yet fragile. In Sufism, such bonds are known as divine connections, relationships that exist to awaken the soul. Ibn Arabi said, "The love that hurts is often the love that purifies." When Allah connects two souls, it is never for comfort alone, it is for transformation. The pain you feel is not punishment, it is cleansing. Through heartbreak, He breaks the shell of your ego, so the light of your true self can emerge. These connections don't destroy you, they refine you until only love for Him remains. There comes a moment in every soul's journey when love and loss stand face to face. When the very person you thought was meant to stay becomes the one you must release. This is the most delicate test of the heart, the moment where your faith is measured not by how tightly you hold on, but by how gracefully you let go. Ibn Arabi once wrote, "The beloved is not lost, only hidden in another form." Those words carry the entire ocean of Sufi wisdom within them, because in truth, no one you've loved is ever truly gone, not from destiny and not from your soul. What changes is the form in which they exist in your life. Sometimes Allah removes someone from your path not to punish you, but to pull you closer to Himself. He knows the weight your heart can bear, and when you cling too tightly to a person, He gently unravels your grip so that you may hold on to Him instead. Letting go in Sufism is not an act of despair. It is an act of trust. It is saying, Ya Allah, I do not understand, but I surrender to what you have written. It is understanding that what was meant for your soul cannot be lost, and what is lost was never meant to remain. The Prophet ﷺ said, know that what missed you was never meant for you, and what reached you could never have missed you. When you truly absorb that truth, peace begins to bloom inside the grief. There are people who enter your life like bridges. They are not the destination. They are the passage. They walk beside you just long enough to carry you across a part of your journey you couldn't have crossed alone. Once you've reached the other side, they fade, not because they were unimportant, but because their role was complete. They were the means through which Allah delivered you to a new stage of your becoming. To try to hold on to them after their time is like clinging to a door that has already opened. You miss the beauty that lies ahead. And then there are others who enter as mirrors. They reflect who you are at a specific stage of your spiritual growth. Through them, you see your weaknesses, your longings, your hidden fears. You see what your soul craves and what it resists. When they leave, it feels like losing a piece of yourself. But in truth, you've only lost the reflection. What remains is the reality, the person you've become because of what that connection revealed. The Sufi masters say that true love never dies. It simply transforms. It moves from the outer world to the inner, from attachment to remembrance. The face you once looked for in the crowd becomes the whisper that leads you toward prayer. Their absence becomes your teacher, guiding you to the one who never leaves. For every tear you shed, there's a hidden mercy. For every emptiness, a divine lesson waiting to be understood. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting. It means seeing with new eyes. It's realizing that the love you thought belonged to a person was actually the love of Allah flowing through them toward you. When He removes them, it's not rejection, it's redirection. He's calling you to seek that same love, but in its purest form, love for Him. So if your heart still aches, let it. The pain is sacred. It means your heart is still alive. But don't let that pain chain you to what's gone. Transform it into gratitude. Whisper, thank you, Allah, for letting me experience a love that taught me who I am and who you are. Because every person you release with love becomes a step closer to the one you were always meant to find. And when you look back one day, you'll understand that person was never really lost. They were the door through which Allah entered your heart. You didn't lose them. You found yourself. You found Him. There comes a time in every seeker-sip's life when the heart begins to ask the hardest question of all. Why did Allah send this person into my life? Sometimes it's someone who awakened you. Sometimes it's someone who broke you. And sometimes it sets both in the same breath. Ibn Arabi taught that every meeting is a line written in the eternal book of destiny. Before your soul descended into this world, the story of your life was already inscribed. Every heartbeat, every loss, every encounter. Nothing happens by accident. What looks like coincidence is actually divine choreography. And the souls we meet are not random people wandering through our days. They are appointed messengers, chosen by Allah Himself to shape the journey of our becoming. When someone enters your life and changes you, it's not simply because of who they are. It's because Allah is using them as a mirror, a messenger, or a milestone in your path. Some souls are sent to teach you gentleness, to remind you what mercy feels like. Others are sent to challenge your pride, to humble you, to break your illusions of control. Some come to open your heart, others to test its strength. And all of them, whether you see it or not, are instruments of His wisdom. The Sufi masters say, "There is no teacher greater than destiny, for destiny speaks in silence, through meetings and partings, through ease and difficulty, through joy and heartbreak. Every face you see, every word that stirs you, every love that shakes you, all of it is the voice of the divine, calling you to awaken. You may not understand it now, but one day you will look back and realize every person who came into your life was carrying a key to a part of your soul that needed to be unlocked." When someone wounds you deeply, it is easy to ask, "Why me?" But in the language of the soul, pain is a message. It says this is the part of you that still needs to heal. Allah does not send cruelty, He sends mirrors. He allows people to act in ways that reveal what still lies hidden within you, your attachments, your fears, your unhealed stories. The hurt they cause is not random, it's revelation. It shows you where you are still clinging to what is temporary, where your faith still depends on people instead of Him. And when someone brings you peace, that too is a sign. They are a reflection of the mercy He wants you to recognize. They remind you of what love feels like when it's pure, when it carries no ownership, no expectation, no demand. The peace you feel in their presence is a glimpse of divine love, not its source. The mistake we often make is believing that the person is the blessing, but in reality, they are only the vessel through which the blessing flows. Allah uses hearts to deliver His light. The light is His. The heart is just the lamp. Ibn Arabi wrote, "There is no face that reveals itself to you except that it is His face in a new form." This means every connection, no matter how ordinary it seems, is a meeting with the divine through one of His infinite reflections. You may think you are looking at a person, but in truth, you are encountering an aspect of Allah's mercy, His justice, His beauty, His wisdom, shining through them for a brief, sacred moment. When you begin to see destiny this way, life stops feeling like chaos and starts feeling like guidance. The heartbreak becomes a classroom. The separation becomes a sermon. Even your mistakes become messages, gently steering you toward a deeper truth. Every why becomes a thank you, because you begin to see that everything was written not to harm you, but to refine you, awaken you, and bring you closer to the one who never leaves. Sometimes, Allah sends someone into your life, not for your joy, but for your purification. Their presence stirs what's hidden: jealousy, anger, fear, longing, and through that emotional storm, your soul begins to cleanse itself. It sits in those moments that Sufism whispers, "Dawn stit, curse the pain, listen to it." Because within that pain lies the guidance you've been praying for. Maybe you asked Allah to strengthen your faith, and He sent someone to test it. Maybe you asked Him for peace, and He showed you what was disturbing your soul. Maybe you asked for love, and He gave you someone who mirrored your capacity to love deeply, so that you would finally understand the love that comes only from Him. When Allah writes destiny, He does not write it for your comfort. He writes it for your growth. The path of the soul is not straight. It bends, it twists, it burns. But in every turn, there is a secret wisdom. You were never abandoned. You were always being guided. Every delay was protection. Every heartbreak was preparation. Every silence was an answer waiting to be understood in a different time. And when you finally look back with the eyes of understanding, you will whisper, "If they hadn't set left, I would never have prayed like that. If I hadn't set lost them, I would never have found myself. If that pain hadn't set come, I would never have known Allah the way I do now." This is the wisdom of destiny. It breaks you only to reveal what was divine within you all along. It strips away illusions so that truth can enter. It teaches you that love is not possession, but purification. That loss is not the end, but the unveiling of a greater purpose. And that no meeting, no matter how brief, is ever wasted in the eyes of the one who wrote your story. So the next time your heart asks, "Why did Allah send them to me?" remember, He sent them to awaken you. He sent them to show you what still sleeps within. He sent them so that, through loving them, losing them, or forgiving them, you might return to Him with a heart that truly understands. Because in the end, destiny is not about who stays or who leaves. It's about who you become through what Allah writes for you. And when you finally surrender to that wisdom, you will see nothing was random, nothing was lost, and nothing was ever without meaning. It was all Him. It was always Him. Every story has a surface, the one you can see, the one that breaks your heart. And then there is another story, written underneath it, glowing softly, where only the patient eyes of faith can find it. This is the story of light, the one Ibn Arabi spoke of when he said that every experience, even pain, is a doorway through which the divine introduces Himself to you. At first, you only notice the surface. Someone enters your life, and their presence feels like sunrise. You laugh, you grow, you believe the moment will last forever. Then something changes. Distance, silence, misunderstanding, loss. The light that once warmed you seems to fade, and the world grows smaller. You ask, "Why would Allah give me this and then take it away?" But you are still looking at the first story, not the one beneath it. The Sufi say that Allah hides His light inside the things that break you, because that is where you finally stop looking at the world and start looking toward Him. When comfort disappears, your eyes begin to adjust to a deeper brightness. You start noticing signs you missed before, the timing of things, the small mercies that carried you, the way your heart softened after every fall. You begin to see that the person who hurt you was also the one who revealed your strength, that the silence that scared you was also the space where your prayer became real. Nothing was empty. It was simply being rewritten in light. The truth is, divine love is never lost. It only changes its form. What once came through a human face now reaches you through stillness, through remembrance, through nights when your tears fall quietly and you whisper His name instead of theirs. The light you felt from them was never theirs to give. It was Allah's mercy passing through them for a time. When He removes them, it is only to teach you to seek that light directly from its source. He is saying, "You saw my reflection in them, now look at me." Ibn Arabi taught that the universe itself is a mirror through which Allah contemplates His own beauty. Every person, every event, every emotion is a reflection of a different divine name: the loving, the wise, the patient, the just. When you love someone deeply, you are actually responding to the divine attribute shining through them. When they leave, that attribute doesn't vanish. It simply calls you higher. The love you once felt outward begins to turn inward and upward, refining itself until it becomes worship. This is why the Sufis call heartbreak the polish of the heart, because the crack that pain creates allows light to enter where pride once lived. Before the break, you may have spoken of trust. After it, you begin to live trust. Before the loss, you may have admired surrender. After it, you start breathing surrender. Pain removes the distance between knowing and being. It makes you real. And as that transformation unfolds, you start reading your story differently. You realize that nothing was wasted. Not the laughter, not the tears, not the sleepless nights. Every detail was a brushstroke in the same painting, a verse in the same revelation. The one who betrayed you taught you discernment. The one who left you taught you detachment. The one who loved you taught you what divine compassion feels like in human form. They were all messengers wearing temporary faces. Slowly, gratitude begins to rise where sorrow used to live. You stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and start whispering, "What is Allah showing me through this?" You begin to notice that every heartbreak pulled you closer to prayer. Every disappointment turned you away from illusions. Every delay protected you from what was never written for you. This is the light behind the story, the mercy that hides inside what first looked like cruelty. Sufism teaches that the divine writes with both visible ink and invisible ink. The visible ink is what you live day to day: joy, pain, meetings, partings. The invisible ink is the wisdom you only see when the page has been turned. What seemed like loss was actually alignment. What seemed like punishment was purification. What seemed like an ending was the quiet birth of a truer beginning. When that realization dawns, something miraculous happens inside you. You stop chasing closure from people and start finding completion in Allah. You stop trying to rewrite the past and start reading it as revelation. You start to see your life as a beautifully orchestrated journey where even your detours were necessary to arrive here in this moment of understanding. And the light continues to grow, because once the heart has seen that Allah was present in every chapter, it can never unsee it. You begin to notice His handwriting everywhere, in the timing of your recovery, in the kindness of a stranger, in the peace that follows a storm. You begin to realize that the story was never about who came or who left. It was about who you became in His presence through all of it. So when you look back now, don't just see what happened, see what was revealed. Every separation was a doorway. Every ache was a reminder. Every love was a lesson in the endless ways Allah loves His creation. Your story was never broken. It was being illuminated, piece by piece, until you could finally see the pattern He had been weaving all along. That is the light behind the story. The understanding that your pain was a lantern, your longing was a prayer, and your destiny was always pulling you toward the only love that never ends. And when that realization fills your heart, you still smile through your tears and say, "It was never darkness at all. It was Allah teaching me how to see." There comes a point in every seeker's path when questions begin to fall silent. After all the searching, after all the pain and wonder, the soul finally begins to see that there was never anything random in its story. Every meeting, every loss, every detour was a verse in a single, continuous revelation written by the one who knows you better than you will ever know yourself. This is the moment when destiny stops feeling like a puzzle and starts feeling like prayer. Ibn Arabi said, "He who knows the reason for his meeting knows the reason for his existence." For most of our lives, we think purpose is something distant, something to be achieved one day. But purpose is already happening in every connection, every breath, every act of patience. The people you met were not side characters in your story. They were the pages on which your soul learned to read divine love. Think back to the person who changed everything for you, the one whose eyes awakened something eternal. You might have called it love, attraction, destiny. What you really felt was recognition, the echo of a promise made before time began. Some souls were written to find each other, not to live together forever, but to remind each other of where they came from. When you met them, a veil lifted. When you lost them, another veil lifted. And behind both veils stood the same truth: La ilaha illallah. At first, you resisted the story. You asked, "Why would Allah give me a connection this deep, only to take it away?" But as the years pass, you start to see the subtle mercy hidden in that pain. If the story had gone the way you wanted, you might never have discovered the depth of your own heart. If they had stayed, perhaps you would have worshipped the creation instead of the Creator who sent them. The separation that once felt cruel was actually the call to wake up. It was Allah saying, "Do not stop at the reflection. Follow the light back to me." The Sufi path begins with love, but ends in realization. You love a person, a teacher, a friend, and through that love, you begin to taste something infinite. Then the form disappears, and you are left with longing. If you follow that longing, if you refuse to drown in despair, it will carry you back to the ocean of the real. That is the secret of Ibn Arabi's teaching. Every love is a bridge to the divine, and every heartbreak is the gate through which the lover passes. To reach that understanding, you must allow the story to complete itself inside you. Do not rush to erase it or rewrite it. Sit with it. Let the memories unfold until you can see the divine handwriting between the lines. The moments of protection disguised as rejection, the closed doors that redirected you toward higher doors, the silences that taught you how to listen. When the heart finally reads those signs, it no longer clings, it bows. It whispers, "You were always here, Ya Allah, even when I thought I was alone." This bowing is freedom. You no longer demand that life obey your desires. You begin to desire what life brings. You no longer pray for specific outcomes. You pray for clear vision. You no longer measure love by possession. You measure it by presence, the unseen presence that remains even after goodbye. You begin to feel that everyone you have ever loved still exists within you, not as ghosts, but as light. Their words, their lessons, their faces, all dissolve into a single radiance that points back to Him. And then something subtle changes. You stop seeking miracles outside yourself and start noticing them inside. The fact that you can forgive, that is a miracle. The fact that you can still love after being broken, that is a miracle. The fact that you can see beauty in pain, that is the transformation destiny was guiding you toward all along. You realize that Allah never took anything from you without replacing it with something eternal. Awareness, surrender, intimacy with Him. Ibn Arabi wrote that the world is a continuous unveiling. Every event removes one more veil between you and the real. At first, the unveiling feels like loss, the loss of certainty, of people, of identity. But eventually, you discover that what was being removed were only the illusions that kept you from seeing truth. When the last veil falls, you understand that the one you were searching for has always been nearer than your own heartbeat. That is the final truth. You didn't meet them by chance. You met them because Allah wanted you to recognize a reflection of Himself in another soul. You loved them so that you could learn how to love Him. You lost them so that you could learn that He never leaves. And now, every time you remember them with tenderness instead of pain, you are fulfilling the real purpose of that meeting. You are remembering Allah through what He once showed you. So let your story rest. Let the gratitude rise. Forgive those who could not stay. Bless those who changed you, and return every feeling to its source. When you wake in the quiet hours before dawn, and the world is still, know that you are being invited to meet the same presence that once spoke to you through human eyes. Answer that invitation. Whisper back, "I see now, my Lord. It was you all along." In that whisper lies completion. Not the end of the story, but the beginning of real peace. The peace that comes when the seeker realizes there was never anything to seek, only something to remember. For the final truth of every soul steps journey is this: you didn't meet them by chance. It wasn't a coincidence. Allah wrote this destiny so that through them you would find Him. And when you finally understand that, the story stops hurting. It begins to glow. It becomes dhikr, the remembrance of the one who authored love, loss, and every heartbeat in between. So when you look back at the people who came into your life, the ones who healed you, the ones who broke you, the ones who awakened something you can name, remember this: none of them were accidents. Each soul was a messenger, sent by Allah to shape you, to soften you, to bring you closer to Him. Some stayed to guide you, some left to free you, but all of them were written in your story for a reason. And one day, when your heart finally understands, you'll whisper, "Now I see. It was never about them. It was always you." Because destiny isn't a coincidence. It's Allah's handwriting on the pages of your soul. And every meeting, every goodbye, was just His way of leading you back home.